Let's waste absolutely zero time. I'm doing the Conquest 4 Darkside Vision Ray video guides right now. If you haven't seen Sector 1 and you need help with that, please do check out this playlist. It has all of the guides that you are going to need. We're looking at Sector 2 now, so let's break it down. Here we are in wonderful Sector 2 of Conquest. There are always 4 feats per sector, and then you have a mid-sector boss and an end-sector boss that have their own additional feats. What feats are in Sector 2? We need Threads of Destiny, which is winning 10 battles with the Great Mothers surviving. This is really not so bad if you have a 7-star Great Mother. If not, we have got some solutions for you, don't you worry. Accurate battle, gain potency up 50 times. Fortunately, this is something that we can cheese very, very easily. I am no Jedi, win 10 battles with a full squad of unaligned Force users, and then Beskar Breaker, attempt to inflict armor shred 30 times, which I will happily show you a wonderful little cheese that will get them all done in uno battle. Booyah, because your boy Scribbler's here for you, baby, you know it. Alright, so, before we begin, let's take a little look at data discs. So generally speaking, this is the sort of data disk setup that I'm going to be showing for you. It's going to have ability fatigue, caustic emissions, maybe more ability fatigue. Leader's Resolve is a really, really solid data disk, gives us a lot of additional stats on the leader. I'm using Spirited Speed, giving me some additional turn meter, and then Weak Point is there for when you need to stack that damage. Now note, sometimes there'll be occasions where you want to take off anything that ramps your damage so you can land certain debuffs. I will try to let you know in the video guide when that is the case, but this is the default. We will start off with the Great Mothers surviving. I'm just going to use a basic full Night Sister squad. You should be able to actually run through all of this if you have a 7-star Great Mothers with at least sort of like gear 12. It will be absolutely easy. Just do it as you are progressing. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this because people that have got Great Mothers at this point are not going to struggle. I just obviously want to make sure that we cover off the very bare basics. Great Mothers is a fantastically powerful team. This also counts for a global feat to win 15 battles with full squads of Night Sisters, so I do recommend that you try and get at least some of these done during this sector. And as you can see, once Great Mothers gets round and places that doomed on people like General Grievous, it becomes a little bit easy. Now, we can also do it with a BAM lead with Dash, Han, and Chewie. This one's got a lot of upfront damage and just gets the ball rolling straight away with some really solid turn meter gains. Now, obviously, you do have to be a little bit concerned about people like Mother Talzin. I was just using this as a for instance. Do recommend teams like this because they just have so much TM control and damage output. If you're using things like Weak Spot, there is a lot of damage that can be given. And of course, BAM has a rather wonderful AoE Whistling Birds that can permanently kill people. I like this sort of team, but also, for Great Mothers, just throw them in with your strongest units. I'm talking about your Galactic Legends, that sort of thing. Unaligned Force users and potency up then. Of course, there is a bit of potency up in 2 of our Inquisitorius. If you do not have Grand Inquisitor and you don't have Reaver, might as well go in with a 5th brother lead. They still have pretty good viability. That first special from our 5th brother gives potency up to the entire team. So that's a really good source of 5 immediate potencies up. Also, 8th brother, when they start their turn, is actually going to, if they are stealthed, they're going to gain potency up as well. So it's a really easy way of just getting out of the gate and getting some potency up very, very quickly. Now, I'm going up against Phoenix here. They've got a lot of survivability against like debuff heavy teams in general, and we're still able to clear through. Now granted, my Inquisitors here are all like Relic 7, they've all got relatively decent mods. You're not always going to be in this position. I'm just showing you some of the teams that can get you double bubble on the feats over here. We've got the unaligned Force users, and we've got potency up on this one team. You can slowly progress through the nodes in this. You can see that weak point over there. Weak point really ramps your damage incredibly quickly, and of course, Inquisitorius have got so many debuffs, it makes it very, very easy to get boatloads of debuffs to ramp your damage all the time. Now, if you don't happen to have Inquisitorius, you can do unaligned Force users with the likes of Seer Lead. I'm using here Seer Lead with Cal Kestis, Visismar, JTR, and Fulcrum. Obviously not an ideal team, but we're still able to get really solid work done. If you have the likes of Malakos, obviously take out someone like JTR and throw Malakos in here. I'm just trying to make these teams just a little bit more accessible. These are the sort of teams that you can can use as you slowly progress through the nodes. And of course, going up against teams that have got really high levels of turn meter generation, like these clones, is actually pretty good for a Seer team because of the way that her kit works, the way that she builds additional TM generation as well as damage output and cooldown manipulation from the enemy taking additional turns. So this is like relatively reliable, and you also have Visas Mar who can revive. I'm not saying this is an ideal team because it obviously isn't, but it is trying to find options for players that maybe don't have all of the unaligned force users. You can also take the same approach to those people that do have Rey. Rey is an unaligned force user, and so is every variant of her. Ben is an unaligned force user. I'm using Cat here as an unaligned force user. But you could use anything. You could use CLS if you don't want to use Commander Ahsoka Tano, if you don't have Commander Ahsoka Tano. This sort of team should be able to clear through pretty much anything in Sector 2. It's not really going to struggle too badly. And I think actually that HK-47 that we defeated there was actually a part of one of our episode track feats for this month. So it was quite useful to be able to kill HK-47 as well. That whirlwind comes in and just claps absolute cheeks. So yeah, full unaligned force users there. Exact same approach can be taken with Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. All versions of Kylo Ren are unaligned force users. I've thrown in Maul here and Malicos for additional unaligned force users. You could throw in any unaligned force users that are dark side. Well, I mean, it doesn't even have to be dark side. I'll be honest, folks. You could use Starkiller if you really wanted to as well. Just anything to get a full team of unaligned force users. Between these sort of GLs and those non-GL teams, it should be relatively straightforward to get it rolling. Obviously, if you have Balin and the Mercenaries, you can get an unaligned force user team that way as well, but I'm not going to show that because that's going to be very limited scope in who can actually do that. Next up, we're going to do a potency up cheese. Over here, I am using Jedi Knight Revan's leadership with GMY. Don't worry about Ezra Bridger Exile, guys. I'm just showing it for people that are here. Kyle Katarn's first special will pass potency up to all allies. You can then turn meter swap with characters like Ezra if you do have him over to GMY. GMY can then spread those buffs. So immediately out of the gate, we've had 10 instances of potency up. It's a very easy way to get it done. We've used this against Phoenix in the past. Maybe don't do all the direct focuses. Maybe just try to focus on characters like Kanan, for example, just to try and slow things down just a hair so that you can get those potency ups just a little bit quicker. But generally speaking, this is a really solid way of getting it done. We just want to constantly be passing turns back and forth to characters like Kyle Katarn to get that potency up, or to GMY to spread it further. That sort of thing should be relatively easy to get it between sort of Inquisitorius with their source and the Jedi with their source of doing it. It's going to be absolutely fine. So as you can see, we passed the turn back over to Kyle Katarn over here. Hera actually had that backup plan, which is actually quite useful because it keeps Kanan alive. And then once we get back round to Kyle Katarn again, I'm not sure if we actually managed to do it, we'll be able to spread some additional potency up, and of course use that then to spread with Grandmaster Yoda as well. So there's a spread, and booyah, right at the end we get potency up across the field again. So that's at least sort of 15 plus potency ups in one battle. So we're going to get round to a full potency up as well as armor shred setup now against the mid-sector boss. The mid-sector boss is General Grievous using a BB-8 or a GG-8 setup over here. We need to defeat an enemy with Shin Hati. I'm sure we'll be able to show that. And then we need to win with a full squad of Night Sisters. But this is actually the best place to get 30 armor shreds in one battle. And it's going to be using a CLS team. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. This is the idea behind it. I've done this in previous versions of Conquest, but what we're trying to do here is we are trying to go after Droideka when we're going to abuse the fact that Droideka over there can go into damage immunity, and we can essentially stun lock him so that he'll never take another turn and we cannot actually kill him. You do have to play this manually. What I recommend you do is try to, with all your might, to not kill that Droideka, okay? When C-3PO uses that second special, he's going to get potency up, so we can actually drag this out the whole time. We've got Sabine Wren over here who can do armor shred on that first special, even though she missed it there. So what we have to do is we have to get to this point here. Droideka right now is in damage immunity. Now, very important. Once Droideka is in damage immunity, he might do it as the first ability, he might do it as the second ability. Once he's in damage immunity, we cannot use anything that's going to strip away buffs. So we can't use the first special on CLS, and we can't use the first special on C-3PO. Everything else is fair game. We want to kill the ads and get it down to just Droideka. So CLS will be able to ignore taunt if he's used call to action. We'll use that to try and target units like B1 and GG. Whenever we've got triple stacks of translation over there on particularly on Sabine Wren, she will be resetting her cooldown. So use the AoE when you can to start taking out stacks of that B1. Do not use the AoE from Chewbacca. And then just basics from C-3PO will be reducing the cooldowns on your Sabine Wren, okay? So that means we'll be able to get those armor shreds on Droideka. When we're doing basics with Han Solo against that Droideka, it's going to be reducing his TM when he's above 50% TM, and the basic from CLS will also remove TM, and the basic from C-3PO will also remove TM. So we've got lots of sources of TM control. We've got tenacity down from Chewbacca, which is offsetting the tenacity up that the enemy has. And then we just systematically just play this manually, get rid of B1 while you can, and get as many armor shreds as you can. You can definitely get over 30, and it's relatively reliable. Once you get to this point, it's actually really easy. I'll skip ahead in a second here, and we'll show where we get to. You can see now, after about 3 minutes or so, we are clearing up all of the stacks of B1, which means there's no more AoE damage coming out of the enemy. You can see how we nearly actually lost our hand there. That B1 stack is a little bit frustrating. When it gets to this, Droideka has still not taken a turn. We'll skip ahead once again, and I'll show you how it goes towards the end of the battle. So it's just a case of manually playing it through, ladies and gentlemen, getting those armor shreds. You can see over there 6 minutes and 30 odd seconds. I was hoping to see how many armor shreds we've got, but I'll show you in a minute now. As you can see, 3 minutes and 37 seconds left. We have 29 armor shreds on the enemy team. Get that one last armor shred off. At this point, you can use your specials again. You've got 30 stacks of armor shreds. So what you can do here is, if you've been mostly basicking with your C-3PO, you wouldn't necessarily get all the potency ups that you have. You can now start using that second special with C-3PO, build up potency ups for the last 3 minutes, and you'll be able to get all of the potency ups that you need, or at least a big chunk towards getting all the potency ups that you need. This is a really useful node to get this done, guys. Everybody has this node available to you. Pretty easy, pretty straightforward. 30 armor shreds in one battle and a bunch of potency ups. Easy money. So winning with Night Sisters against GG really isn't very difficult, I will be honest. Now, I used a setup over here using the Great Mothers because I still want to have that Great Mothers victory. But generally speaking, having Great Mothers in this team actually makes it harder because you will not be able to revive. So if you do not have a good Night Sister team, do not use Great Mothers. I would much rather see you use someone that's going to provide you with additional damage, like, say, Spirit, maybe, or if you could use Merrin, for example, to have yourselves another source of revives. Great Mothers just prevents you from having revives. I'm only using her, like I said, so that I can get the global feat. But this is actually very straightforward. It's just a case of ramping up damage with your Night Sisters, getting all of that plague out there while you can, and just dealing with units one at a time. It should not be too much of an issue. I think I actually still managed to survive with the Great Mothers over here, so it counts towards my global feat. The interesting thing about Great Mothers actually in a Night Sister team is she will prevent all revives, but Zombies revive can't actually be prevented at all. So you'll always be able to keep Zombie reviving every single time. You see, GG over there just did not have such a great time in the end. And we managed to clear it, full Night Sisters, and we had Great Mothers survive there. But like I said, swap Great Mothers out for Morgan Elsbeth. For Merrin, sorry, if you don't have a good Great Mothers team. So I'm going in with something a little bit different here. CLS with Han Solo, Chewbacca, and Echo, and then Shin Hati to try and get that kill at the start. So all I'm really looking to do here is try to control that GG so he doesn't go absolutely nuts out the gate. So we're going to get the stun on GG right at the start, just to try and slow down the enemy team, and then hopefully what we can do is deal enough damage to the enemy, flip over with Call to Action with CLS so we can target General Grievous and just go all in on him. If we can get him out, then there's so much less of an issue over here. Next up, when Echo takes his turn, we can immediately get that AoE Daze out and try to get rid of the Droideka. Now, obviously, we need to get a kill with Shin Hati, so if your Droideka is nice and damaged like mine, focus down on that B1 instead, so that we can just reduce all of these stacks nice and well. And then over here, we could probably go in with a nice big hit from Shin and get a kill. Now, obviously, this is going to depend on the gear that you've got on your Shin, but this is certainly one way of getting it done. After that, I think we'll just get rid of this guy. Let's see if we can get rid of BB-8 as well. Not quite get rid of BB-8, but there comes the attacks, and, you know, that's kind of it. Obviously, I have a Relic 7 Shin, so it's a little bit harder for me to show you in practicality, but the idea is to get rid of GG very quickly and then try to pick apart one of the weaker units. Echo there is very useful for that AoE Daze and the AoE Dispel, so that you can actually target that Droideka and stop B2 from taking bonus turns. moving on to the boss node then. Right at the end, we're facing off against Adrad with a full team of standard Adrad, except for some reason he's got Xaereth Prevails Pathfinder. It's a choice. It's a choice. The feats, we need to defeat an enemy with Ezra Exile, which is very easy if you have JML, and then we need to win with a full squad of mercenary units. So let's give you guys some options. For mercenary units, I've chosen not to use Bale and Skull here, guys. We're going with a BAM lead. I'm using Fennec, Boba Fett, Sign of Django, Dash, Rendar, and Han. You really don't need to do this. Much better if you actually don't use characters like Boba Fett, Sign of Django, but Dash is very, very useful. All I'm going to do is try to focus on getting rid of Adrad as soon as possible. So just go full send on him, gain your buffs where you can. That AoE damage that comes out of Dash Rendar is so very, very good. And focus on getting rid of Adrad at the start. Whistling Birds will also prevent any revives. That's why another reason why I chose BAM, so that they can't come back. The Xaereth Pathfinder can't come back. You know, Adrad can't revive people, Jin can't revive people, all that sort of good business. Obviously, it's just one of the units that you can use, one of the team comps that you can use, but it's something that I felt was relatively accessible. Swap out Boba Fett, Sign of Django for pretty much anyone. You could use OG Django Fett, for example. You could start using some of the bounty hunters or even Candra's Ordo, but generally speaking, you just want that damage output to be relatively high with some good sources of aid. Okay, so if you need to get a kill with Ezra, it's going to be a little bit trickier than normal for people that would usually just use JML, and that's only because if you have no gear on Ezra, then you'll be usually relying on inherited teachings from JML to call him to assist to do great damage, but he can't do it whilst he has Exile. Okay, so we do actually need to get rid of Exile first if he is a little bit weaker. Fortunately, you can use a team like this to swap turns back and forth to give him turns at a quicker pace so that we can cycle through, get those stacks of Purgle Migration, all that sort of good business. So I'm using Jedi Knight Revan here, Jedi Knight Luke, Ezra obviously under JML. And all we're looking to do, realistically speaking, is try to, the best of our abilities, get the enemy nice and weak. We're going to stun whenever we get the opportunity. I'm going to pass the turn over to Ezra Exile so that he can try and ramp up his stacks of Purgle Migration as quickly as possible. Let's go ahead, because if we try to call him in here, it won't actually work because he's exiled, and exiled characters can't actually attack out of turn. So yeah, I don't know what we'll do here. We'll just increase cooldowns or something. I'm just trying to get through at the moment. Bring people low. If you like, the problem is my Ezra is actually Relic 9, so he's going to defeat people no matter what. But if we just keep on passing turns back and forth to him while we can, we will hopefully be able to... that was really good damage, truth be told. Hopefully we'll be able to get rid of that exile and then defeat him. So, get him to defeat a unit. So the good thing as well is you can't actually defeat Jin whilst Adrad is alive. So if nothing else, you can just get it down to just Jin and Adrad and hold it off here until you get rid of that exile. That's one way of getting it done, I suppose. So I'll just basic here. He's got 43 stacks of that exile at the moment. They've revived a unit. That's okay. Let's get rid of him again. And yeah, let's just do a basic here. He's at 50, so he's now gotten rid of exile. Fantastic. Let's go ahead and just call in JML, I guess. We just need to get one kill with him here. So Jin is dead. You can now use Inherited Teachings to call Ezra to assist and get that kill. Obviously, this is going to be a little bit harder when you don't have JML. So if you don't have JML, go in with the Jedi Knight Revan lead, still Luke, still Cal Kestis if you have them, that just makes it easier, and I'm taking in Jolee Bindo. The reason I take in Jolee Bindo is so that we can revive if we need to, ladies and gentlemen, revive if we need to. So we'll do the same thing again. What we'll try to do is systematically just take out every enemy team over here, all the units on the enemy team, so that once we've done that, we can just leave it down to Jin and Adrad. So let's go ahead and just pass the turn over. Boop, 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 boop. Wonderful. Pass the turn back over to our boy Ezra. The reason I'm passing turns over to Ezra once again, guys, is because we do want to get that Purgle Migration sorted. We want to have him feeling nice and pretty once again. So we're at 48 stacks already. We are flying through here right now. Let's go ahead and just call it. Oh, we can't call in Ezra. I keep on forgetting that we can't call in Ezra. So yeah, Jolee is there to revive your Ezra in case he needs it. We're going to bring Jin nice and low. We're going to get that armor shred over here on Xaereth Prevails Pathfinder. And that, whilst it did get us the kill, it also got rid of Exile, which is great, right? So next up... I mean, my Ezra just does too much damage, guys. I'm sorry. I'm trying to help here. I'm trying to help. But use that same principle. You want to try and save a save the strategic advantage or turn me to swap back over to Ezra Exile when you get the chance, okay? But should be able to get it done relatively easy. If you need to time it out, just stick to attacking Jin whilst Adrad is alive and you should be okay. And that is going to do it for Sector 2. I will be getting Sector 3 feats out as quickly as I possibly can for you to make sure that you're not wasting time and you are earning those red boxes, getting that Dark Side Vision Ray. Let's do this, baby. I'll see you all in the very next video. Make sure you like if you haven't already and subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Peace out. May the Force be with you.